Hello everyone, welcome back to the Young Show. Now, I can't believe I'm holding the signed English version of book Fixed by X6 and sitting next to the author of the book, Professor Larry Berman, and we are here at the Continental Hotel where Major General Pham Xuan An spent a lot of time in his life. So Larry, thank you so much for being here today, and I know you have a very busy schedule, so I really appreciate that.
I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to be speaking with you finally. I meet the person who made that wonderful video several months ago.
Thank you. So I know that you had a speech on the topic of Pham Xuan An dreams for Vietnam yesterday, right? So what is the message to the young Vietnamese people through your speech?
Right. So yesterday in my speech to a large group, well over 150 young students at USSH here in Ho Chi Minh City, I spoke about the dreams of Pham Xuan An, and those dreams involve certain key themes. But the key theme was that when An went to the United States in 1957, he was the very first Vietnamese to learn about the Americans, to learn who they were. And he took that back with him when he came back to Vietnam, and he believed in two things, that Vietnamese and Americans had everything in common, and that the friendship was so easy because they all liked each other, and that they could learn from each other. There was a lot that America could learn from the Vietnamese people, and the Vietnamese people could learn a lot from the Americans. And An wanted to be the teacher of what it meant to be a journalist in Vietnam, and what it meant to be a member of a press corps in Vietnam. And these are the things that he dreamed about when he came back in 1959. But then the war interrupted all that, and it became very difficult for that dream to be a reality until 1984 and 1985. And so we talked about that dream of reconciliation and An's role in that. And he never dreamed about being a great spy. Being a spy was his mission and his national obligation, which he did. But his dream was one of friendship and one of commitments between our two countries, and that we're living that dream today. We really are.
Yeah. So I introduced Perfect by X6 as my very first book on my YouTube channel, and I have received a lot of good comments and reviews about your book. But today we are not going to talk only about the book, but also about the topic of friendship. So how to stay good friends and how to remain a good friendship. Yeah. So back to the very beginning of your relationship with Mr. An. So did you believe that you could develop such a good relationship for very a long period of time?
That's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question.
Yeah.
So the answer is, of course, when I first met An, I didn't even know who An was. We met, and as I write in my book, we just happened to be sitting next to each other. I mean, it was my luck. My whole future was determined by the fact that he sat down next to me at a dinner one night, and he talked to me about all the time he had spent in California. He actually worked very close to where I live in California, and he knew everybody that I knew, and he never once in 3 hours of dinner conversation, never once mentioned the war. All he spoke about was America and Vietnam and the future, and that's the way An was like that. He didn't like talking about the war because it's such a complicated topic, and also he had played a major role in the war, but as a spy. And so that night, I never envisioned that from that evening, we would end up in a relationship which we have. And that night he gave me his business card, which I still carry with me in my wallet. I've never taken it out. I mean, I take it out to show people. And he gave me his card, and he said, "Give me a call tomorrow. I'd like to speak to you, and I'd like to meet you at Givral, which is a coffee house right across the street that's been destroyed now. It's not here anymore. It's been like everything else in the city. It seems to be here one day and gone the next. But I was supposed to go to, and I tell the story in the book, I was supposed to go to Cambodia because I was with a group of professors on a tour, my very first trip to Vietnam. And I decided I would stay, not go to Cambodia, left the tour because I felt that the forces of life wanted me to be with An, and we met at Travail the next day. We spoke for 8 hours. He just
amazing.
talks and talks, and that was the beginning of a remarkable relationship. And I wouldn't still describe it as a friendship. It was a relationship. And then when I became his biographer, I had to really be careful about maintaining a distance where I could be critical and raise certain things and not just feel like I was a friend. That was one of the hardest things I did. But so I never envisioned it, but it turned out to be remarkable.
Yeah, so I know that it took like 5 years for you to collect the information and travel back and forth between America and Vietnam before writing the book.
That's correct.
And eventually, Mr. An allowed you and trusted you to share his life, his career, even though he previously refused a lot of authors, including Vietnamese authors, before you, right? So, I want to know that did it ever cross to your mind to give up? Because it was such a long process, right?
Yes, and remember that it was 5 years of doing research, but I also, at the first 2 of those years, I had asked An to allow me to write his biography, and he kept saying no, because, and he had a good reason. He said that what he knew was just too sensitive, and and it would hurt too many people. And then there was that day that he got very sick, and there was a photograph of him in all the news. Well, I saw it in the newspaper right here in town, and I had my friend translate it for me because I don't read Vietnamese, and it said that General Pham Xuan An is about to die, and he had very serious emphysema. He had had half of his lungs removed, and that it was unlikely he would leave the hospital. And I was supposed to see him that day. And so what I did was I wrote him a letter, a personal letter, saying that I didn't think he was going to die, and I looked forward to seeing him when he got home, and I hoped he was better, and I hoped he would give me another list of books to bring him, because on every trip I always brought him books. I was his courier for bringing in literature to read here in Vietnam. And so I gave that letter to his son, and I thought An would never read it, and An came home and was only given 6 months to live, and he read the book, and I got a message. He read the letter, and I got a message saying, "Come to see me." And so I came to see him almost immediately, and An thought he only had 6 months to live, and I told him, "You have 2 choices, An. You can have Vietnamese biographers write your story, or you can have an American historian write your story. But if you only have 6 months to live, you have to make a decision now." He changed his mind. He said, "Okay, you can write the story." And he lived for 2.5 more years. And that was why I wrote the book. I was able to write the book. If he had died in 6 months, so I was a very lucky biographer. So that's when I really started, because I never knew when he was going to die. And we kept going and going, and I kept coming back. So I had enough to write the book and eventually he never saw the book. He never read it.
Maybe thanks to the personal letter that you sent him, right? You also mentioned that Mr. An wished that the 2 countries could become good friends after the war. The country that he was born in and sacrificed for Vietnam, and the country that he fell in love, America. So do you think what is the most important thing in maintaining friendship that it is not the same as it was in the past?
So that's another great question. And you're talking about friendship between countries or friendship between people, because I think they require different things sometimes.
I think I want to mention about friendship between people.
Yeah. So I think that for An, and I would agree with this for me too, the most important part of maintaining a friendship is to be as honest and as truthful between two people as possible. That is, to communicate that and to be yourself and not to be someone else. And that's really interesting because, of course, An as a spy had to be someone else to his friends. So An had all these American friends who thought he was Pham Xuan An, a journalist for Time magazine, and he was. But he was also someone else. He was actually X6 on a mission. So when the war was over, his friends had to determine which friend An really was. Was it the spy? And when they came back, all about 90% of his friends still not only wanted to be his friend, but loved him in the same way because they understood that being a spy for An was his national obligation.
Yes.
But he hadn't changed his personality to do that. And I think that is really interesting. And I once wrote an article that it was like a blog piece that was, can spies have true friends? Because it's easy to think about if you discovered that your best friend all of a sudden wasn't who you thought they were, but they were a secret agent working for a different government.
Yes.
You might wonder, are we really friends? Was that friend using me? And very few of An's friends seemed to even think they were being used by An. And as An said, he never betrayed a friend.
So you spent many years being with Mr. An. So I wonder, is there anything that you could change that could have improved your relationship with Mr. An even more?
That's a great question, and one I don't think anyone's ever asked me. I would say that since I wasn't trying to have a friendship with An, I learned a lot about friendship, but I was still a historian. I wanted to write his story, and if there's anything about my relationship with Pham Xuan An, I wish I could go back and ask him different questions. That's what I would really love to do. I'd like to ask him this question. But there are some things that in the last 7, 8 years that I've thought about, I've really reflected on, and I've had conversations about, and I wish I could go back and just spend another day or two with him on all the subjects that I wish I could just ask him about. And one of them would be friendship, and one of them would be about how difficult it must have been for him to have been a spy, to have been working as a cover, yet truly liking the people that he was working with. That I never really asked him, I never probed deeper about the inner conflicts that might have created for him. And he talked about it a lot, but I wish I had challenged him a little more on it, because it would have been, I think, really fascinating to hear what he had to say about those things.
Mm-hmm. So when you first met him in 2001, right?
Yeah.
And now 2017, over 16 years, right? Yeah. And I really admire your friendship with Mr. An and your commitment to him as well. And yeah, I wish I could have such a wonderful friendship. And again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for everything you've been creating.
Oh, well, thank you. I want to say that my friendship with General An, who I hardly ever say General An, it's hard to believe that he's been in the next life for over 10 years already. So my friendship to him is also to his memory, because every day I appreciate more the meaning of his life, because the meaning of his life is defined to some people as a spy, some people as a journalist, but for An it is about friendship, and it is about the meaning of true friendship between people, between countries, and how one can dedicate themselves to it. And I feel that is it's a commitment to friendship, which is the most important legacy of General An. So thank you for raising these questions. They're great.
Yeah, so thank you so much again. And to the audience, thank you so very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Okay.
You did it.
Yeah.
All right.